Sadhguru, there is a poem I wrote about how much is programmed and are we living a scripted life. I'll read a little bit of it, and I would want you to tell us that how much is actually there when you live in your hands, because somewhere you've also said that life is a preparation for death. It's talk about a programmed seed. And this was a thought when it occurred to me as I've expressed in this. I thought that almost minutest of the things I do, what if they're all not in my hand? So that's what it expresses. You can agree or disagree with it. So one of my favorite poems. बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है, बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है, एक पुड़िया में मेरा अस्तित्व सारा है समाया, एक पुड़िया में मेरा अस्तित्व सारा है समाया, मेरे कंकर में छुपी है पर्वतों सी मेरी काया, बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है। क्या समूचा वृक्ष कोई योजना है? क्या समूचा वृक्ष कोई योजना है? क्या धड़कते अंकुरों की राह तय है? स्वप्न पर भी है नहीं अधिकार मेरा, स्वप्न पर भी है नहीं अधिकार मेरा, ना पराजय है मेरी ना ही विजय है, बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है। प्रेम की बारीक रेखा में बसा उन्माद भी तय, हर्ष की बूंदों में सोया एक तृण अवसाद भी तय, प्रेम की बारीक रेखा में बसा उन्माद भी तय, हर्ष की बूंदों में सोया एक तृण अवसाद भी तय, खिलखिलाऊं तो लगे यह कर्ज था मुझको चुकाना, खिलखिलाऊं तो लगे यह कर्ज था मुझको चुकाना, गुनगुनाऊं तो लगे यह धर्म था मुझको निभाना, बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है। जब कभी आरंभ और गंतव्य सट कर बैठते हैं, द डेस्टिनेशन एंड द बिगिनिंग व्हेन दे सिट टुगेदर, दैट्स द बर्थ ऑफ द सीड। जब कभी आरंभ और गंतव्य सट कर बैठते हैं, बीज कोई जन्म लेता है नयनमल, और वहां से छूटकर जब प्राण अंकुर फूटते हैं, चेतना विस्तार लेती है उसी पल, बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है। जब से ये सोचा है मैं भयभीत सा हूं, एक गिरवी शब्द सा हूं, गीत सा हूं, लेखनी चलती मगर लगती पराई, बांसुरी ने है गणित से मात खाई, जिंदगी अभिव्यक्ति भर है, बस मुझे इसका ही डर है, बीज में सब कुछ लिखा है। Is life only a mere manifestation and is all scripted?
बीज में बहुत लिखा है, सब कुछ नहीं। बीज में बहुत बहुत लिखा है, सब कुछ नहीं। A whole lot of stuff is written into the seed, a lot more than anybody can ever imagine. So much is written into the seed, but not everything. That's what makes human life what it is. Whether you go by the programmed thread of life or you step out for a conscious life. Now that you're reading so much of your fantastic poetry, let me read my bad poetry for you.
Please.
It's titled as Devdasi. Mortal nature of this coil is earth's gift, but only soil. Hosts and breeds like an anthill, prances and dances as if of its own will. If life's mill has kneaded you well, will know a destiny beyond death's will. One who escapes death's cold chill will succumb to the ultimate thrill, to be enclosed in a timeless still. This, the spiritual whore calls the divine will. There are two types of seeds. The seed that our parents planted, which gave us a body. The seed that is planted by the Creator, which gave us the life within us. These are two different types of seeds. or these are two different dimensions of nature. One is programmed for certainty, another is programmed for a possibility. A possibility means an uncertainty. All those who try to avoid uncertainty only end up avoiding possibilities. The seed of physicality, the seed of physical nature, which has been transmitted by our parentage, has a certain set of rules and compulsions of its own. This nature is only trying to survive. The nature of physical body is it wants to survive. Survival includes procreation. It is always trying to avoid anything else, anything that threatens its survival, always avoiding. But the seed that was planted by the Creator within us, the seed that is planted by the source of creation within us, is not a seed, it is itself. Our parents gave us just a seed and gave us this body. But the source of creation did not give us a seed in that sense, it gave itself. Because all the possibilities that the source of creation holds is kind of encapsulated in this one. Whether that possibility is realized in an individual life or not is a questionable thing, but the possibility is there. Those who get identified with the physical self of who they are will always try to avoid all possibilities or will always try to avoid uncertainty, because uncertainty is something that the body doesn't like. Body wants certainty, always trying to create certainty. This happens in so many ways. The first step of how a human being is trying to create certainty in a social structure is, the first step is family, a biological bond, so that there is a sense of certainty. If this body just stands free from everybody, it feels very insecure. This is not the act of your mind, this is the nature of your body. To protect this body, to preserve this body, you have evolved a certain defensive process called the mind. So if you're identified with the body, everything is always about creating certainty. Starts from family, financial security, friends, clubs, societies, communities, nations. All these are different manifestations of trying to create a certain certainty to our life, so that this physical body feels a certain assurance that it is not under threat. Because once you have taken on a physical form, it is constantly under threat. In this vast cosmos, this tiny little unit is constantly under threat. If you just look up at the sky, it's terrifying. So you have to find explanations how gods are working from up there, and God sends the rain, God sends the lightning. All these things are just to create certainty. If you do not know how it's happening, the sheer uncertainty of it will kill you, because body cannot handle it. Only when you touch the product or the sprout of the seed the source of creation has planted within you, this uncertainty is gone, that you will not seek certainty, you will seek possibility.
Wow. But Sadhguru, still, do you think that the fact that we in this room talking about death, we've taken out time, is it a luxury? Is spirituality itself, spiritual seeking itself a luxury? Is it because one can see… I remember when we're talking about death, and I must tell you this, someone who is a very valued employee of our family, who's worked with our family, he could not come to work one day, and I was at the airport and he couldn't come to receive me. And next day he called and he was crying. I had learned that he's lost his brother. He was not crying for his brother. He was apologizing to me. It shook me. He kept the phone down and I was silent for a while, that even talking about death, even talking about rituals, even talking about life, soul, whatever we call, is it a luxury? Is the fact we have Sadhguru and we go to ashram and we talk about this and you come here in this room, is it all luxury, or the people who are actually in the thick of it? It's like being in a river. If you're fighting with the waves in the river, you're not the one who's standing there with a saksha bhav and looking at a river and admiring the beauty of the river. For you, it is not a river. For you, it's like a flow with which I'm fighting. And you don't even understand the meaning of the river and the beauty of the river and the grandeur of it. So is it a luxury?
See, if you do not understand the nature of the river, if you ask me, you have no business to be in the river.
I don't even know I'm in the river to begin with. It was not my choice.
No,
I was thrown into it.
No. See, once you're born as human, you're invested with a certain amount of intelligence and awareness. That's what makes you human. Even if you're considered whatever, special or retarded or whatever you call them, even then, you still have a certain dimension of intelligence and awareness. Actually, many of them have better awareness than a whole lot of other people. Because they're disadvantaged on the outside, they're paying little more attention to the inside. So this has come with you. It is not that you have to be reminded. The only reason why a whole lot of humanity does not look at this, either life has to hit them strong, or as you said, maybe it's a luxury, people have nothing to do, so they come here to know what about death? Death cafe. No. If you're little conscious, if you're just even minutely conscious, it's very apparent that you're mortal. So the nature of human intelligence is such, it naturally asks a question, what about this? How did all this happen? What is the nature of this life? Why am I here? These questions are not philosophical, this is the nature of human intelligence. Why a whole mass of people are not asking these questions today is because of organized religion. Because for everything, they have a fanciful, ridiculous answer. There is no room for quest, there is no room for seeking. This has been the bedrock and the essence of Eastern cultures, particularly India, that you are not a believer, you are a seeker. You are a seeker of truth, you are a seeker of freedom or liberation. You are not aspiring to believe something. This is a godless culture, this must be understood. When I say godless culture, we understood that if a human being functions beyond the normal limitations that you see in a whole lot of people around you, then we called him, oh, he's godlike. The word God has a different connotation, there is one sitting up there. That never was the case in this part of the world. We call them devas, and there were hundreds and thousands of devas. Anybody who functions… suppose you use the language in a certain way, I'm sure all these people know those words. It is there in the dictionary, I'm sure. But at a certain skill, you use the language, now they will say, oh, he is a poetry god. We are not thinking you're sitting up there and writing poetry. We're just saying you have risen beyond the normal limitations that exist in the society. It can be poetry, it can be sport, it can be art, it can be music, it can be just work. It doesn't matter what. Kubera is a god, just a rich man, because he knows how to make business and money.
We have many now.
Nothing wrong with that. It's glad… we need many more. We definitely need many more in the country. Now, anybody who rises beyond a normal level of competence, he's called a deva. So our idea of God is an enhanced human being. Our idea of God is not somebody sitting, one Superman sitting up there and doing everything. This is essentially an imported idea. So, when you come to the spiritual process, is it a luxury or is it a basic necessity? If you wish to live your life, if you think life is a struggle, because it's a struggle, because you're uninformed about the nature of life. Anything will be a struggle if you're uninformed about it, isn't it so? If you sit in your car and you don't know how to drive, it started moving. Slowly it started rolling, fear. If it starts going fast, terror, isn't it? But you know how to drive, you sit in the car, the faster it goes, the better it is, isn't it? You'll become ecstatic because it's going fast. You will not become terrorized. So, the same with life, if you know how to drive this life, if you have paid little attention to this, if you at least read the user's manual, how to deal with this, then spiritual process is a fundamental necessity, more essential than learning skills to survive, because survival, even an earthworm is doing it, a grasshopper is doing it, bird is doing it, all with 1/1,000,000th of your brain, with such a big brain. What is the problem about survival? Only because you want to survive like somebody else. You have a serious issue about survival. If you just want to survive, what's the problem in this world?
But Sadhguru, when you realize the truth, you start seeing meaning of life, whichever way. I'm not putting a hierarchy to it. There's certain… and a lot of people have actually talked to me about this, and some people actually wrote emails to me that, what does one do when one encounters or feels that what he's doing every day is meaningless. And he's seen the truth, so-called truth, or at least has a glimpse of it, or a sense of it. And after that, you are supposed to perform the mundane, which you're not interested in. You've been disinterested in that. Not everybody can go into a jungle and leave everything and follow what one's heart is telling you. How does one strike this balance between realization of truth, realization of what is to be done with life, versus what life expects you to do?
Let me correct that question a bit. You said, leave everything and go to the jungle. No, you left everything and come to Mumbai. Everything is in the jungle, not in Mumbai. Existentially, in terms of life, jungle is full of life. Mumbai is a very dumbed-down life, because you're so strongly identified. See, people have come together. How many… what's the population? Mumbai?
20 million.
20 million people. 20 million people in such a concentration in one place. They didn't come together because they've fallen in love with each other, they can't live without each other, no. They've come together only for survival. After survival, a few other things may be happening, but essentially in search of survival. This is exactly what I'm saying. Survival has been raised to heaven simply because you are so strongly identified with the physicality. Now, once again, all this looks philosophical. No, it is… all of us have grown up from being a small infant to who we are right now, isn't it? Did anybody drop like this? Did any of you drop as you are? I'm sorry for your mothers. So, you clearly know this is something you're gathering. Whether you gather a decent amount or an indecent amount is left to you, but it is gathering for sure. Is it not simple, fundamental for human intelligence to know what I gather, whether it's my clothes or things or body, cannot be me? Is it something that you need some kind of a genius to know this, I'm asking? just basic intelligence is able to know this. But you deny yourself that and try to live, well, if you live so foolishly, how can you avoid suffering? Suffering is not a consequence of the situations of life. Suffering is a consequence of ignorance. People have gone about philosophizing how ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss is like… don't do… whatever I say right now, nobody need to do this, okay? If somebody falls off the balcony or jumps off the balcony, it will feel wonderful till you hit the ground. Have you ever done skydiving? It feels fantastic.
No, but this again, actually, it's an interesting thing you touched upon. A lot of people, and this is not near-death experience, but flirting with death. And what is this fascination with flirting with death?
Butterflies in the stomach.
Yeah.
They like the butterflies in the stomach because life is not enough. For no human being, life is enough, you understand? They're trying to handle it in different ways. They want to be something more. Somebody thinks more money will do it, they'll run after it. Once they go into it, the situations will catch up and keep them going forever. Somebody will think, go on conquest, somebody will go shopping, somebody… these are all different ways people are trying to enhance themselves. Someone will run after knowledge, someone will run after love. In some way, you want to be little more. This longing to expand is constantly there in every human life. Philosophies have been woven to contain it. Don't desire for too much, keep it low, whatever. These philosophies only work either when you're sick or when you're very old. When something is happening in you, you want more, no question about it. Now, this longing to expand is a limitless longing. However much you have grown, still there is a longing. If this longing finds a fundamental physical expression, we call this sexuality. If it finds an emotional expression, we call this love. All these things are just to include and expand. If it finds a psychological expression, as I said, it's either conquest or ambition or greed or shopping. If it finds expression in a conscious way, then it's called a spiritual process, or a better word is yoga. The word yoga means to unite, union. What does union mean? That means what is individual right now in your experience? In reality, you're not an individual. In reality, in a mass of life, you are floating just like a bubble, like a soap bubble. But in your experience, because of the psychological construct within you, you are experiencing yourself as an individual. If this individual has to find fulfillment, he has to become universal. How do I become universal? There are fantastic parables in our culture, you heard about that. Krishna is playing outside, Yashoda thinks he may be eating mud. She says, open your mouth, and she sees the whole cosmos within his mouth. This is a parable to tell you that he is living in such a state of inclusion, which found expression in a different way in the Kurukshetra about the Vishwarupa Darshana. What all this is trying to say is, he is not living as an individual, he is living as a universal entity. This is being said to somebody because it's possible for that somebody also
to be that,
to become that. Becoming this does not mean it's an attainment, it's only a realization. This is why enlightenment is never referred to as an attainment. It is always a realization because it's already there. It's just for you to realize. See, one must understand this. We are not changing the framework of reality, we are just realizing what is the reality. So realization is the thing. It is not an attainment, it is not an accomplishment, it is not like you went and sat on top of a mountain. Now, people withdraw. Let's say I'm sure most of you go on a vacation, you're fed up with what's happening in Mumbai. When you go for a vacation, you generally want to go to a quieter place. edge of a jungle, but there must be a resort. Because your body has become like this, you cannot live in the jungle. Believe me, most of you, if I make you live in the jungle for 5 days, you're finished. You won't be able to take it. I've had this experience of, for weeks on end, I'm by myself, eating off the jungle and living off the forest. It takes a different physicality and mentality and above all, an inner strength to be there. Just the body itself is not ready because it's gotten used to a certain level of comfort, which is an unnatural level of comfort. Everything, people are allergic to trees. It's becoming a big thing. In United States, whoever you ask, they're allergic to trees, allergic to grass, allergic to sunlight. I think it's beginning to happen here also, because people are living in enclosed incubators, maintaining the right kind of temperature for their comfort. So when you live like this, the physical seed, the seed that your parents gave you, the seed which is carried for millions of years, you're weakening this. When you live like this, the next generation will be definitely weaker than the way you are physically. As it is, if you compare yourself to any generation of the past, we are the weakest generation ever physically. Never before human beings have been this weak in their body. Never before it's been so that they can't eat a full stomach and digest whatever they eat. Today, everybody has to count how much they're eating. If they eat little more, there are problems. So we are the weakest generation ever. We have done this to ourselves. And this is the seed, we're going to pass it on to the next generation and the next generation. Because the nature of physicality is the 5 elements. The more you're in contact with the 5 elements, the stronger and more robust this body will be. Creating a robust body is an important part of spiritual process, because if your body has become an issue, right now your back is aching, I am talking about enlightenment, are you interested? Even if God appears, you'll say, my backache should go. Just look at all the prayers. 99% of the prayers on this planet are, give me this, give me that, save me, protect me, isn't it? There is nothing beyond, no other higher dimension is happening. You're trying to route your survival through heaven, it's a very inefficient way of doing it.
But the majority of temples are like that, majority of our people are praying like that, the prayers have become transactional in nature. I do not want to be judgmental about it, because people seems to be relating with God in a very transactional way. And I feel maybe this is just a way to transmit energies, and maybe because so many people, if collectively doing this, and this is not which is happened by design, this has happened organically. How do you explain that?
There was a design. In this culture, there was a design as to how to do. If you go back into the ancient prayers, you will see the only prayer is… See, you must understand this first of all. Of the Trinity that we hold, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, there are only 2 temples for Brahma, the creator. That speaks volumes about our gratitude. There were not many temples for Vishnu. They have come up in the last 600 to 800 years. But before that, there were thousands of temples for Shiva. Why would anybody want to worship a destroyer? That's one guy who you must avoid, isn't it? You would want to express your gratitude to the Creator and make deals with the maintenance aspect of life. Destroyer you must avoid. No, only destroyer. And the prayers were always oh Mahadeva, destroy me the way I am so that I can become like you. Because the aspiration is not to reach God, but to become divine. Becoming divine means you have broken the limitations which are set up by the compulsive nature of your physicality. If you break those limitations, then always you're seen as divine. And this is the tradition which still people are doing unconsciously. The moment you say, somebody is a saint, somebody is a sage, somebody is a yogi, you know him, you don't know him, a whole town will come and touch his feet. Because the moment you say that he has broken some limitation of his physical nature, immediately people think he's worth bowing down to, worshipping, whatever. And above all, there is something to receive from that. So essentially, the whole culture was designed to be spiritually oriented. Spiritually oriented need not necessarily mean going into the jungle or whatever. It simply means that you are living a full-fledged life. See, your physicality will not go away, it's here. It will not go. It is just that the compulsions of physical nature are gone and you are exploring the other dimensions of who you are. What I would like to say is, anyway we are here, and it is also a fact, anyway we will die. Is that okay? It's not my wish, I'll bless you with a long life, but even with blessing you will die. Yes, maybe others have told you, if I bless you, you will not die. I'm telling you, even if I bless you, you will live well and die, but you will die. Now, before you fall dead, is it not important? Is it not important that at least you know this piece of life in its entirety? You may not know the cosmos, doesn't matter, but at least this piece of life in its entirety, full breadth and scope of what this is, you must experience. If you leave this place without even experiencing this life, you're not only an unfulfilled life, you're a wasteful life. So whatever social philosophies we will evolve, leave that aside. Just look at it in terms of life. Do not call your job, your family, your entertainment, your holidays as life. Life is here. What is throbbing here is life. This is just activity, this is just arrangements we make. All these arrangements we made only for the well-being of this life, isn't it? So if you go away without experiencing the full depth and dimension of this life, it is a wasted life. So spiritual process means just this, you want the full cake, you are not willing to eat a cut.
I want to know is everybody longing to expand, or can I be content with just living well? If you say that unconsciously anyway I'm trying, then maybe I'm willing to try and fire up consciously.
It is not because I say so, there is no option for any life. Every life wants to be little more. Some take big strides, some take small steps, depending on the level of fear and insecurity they have. But even the most fearful person wants a small expansion, isn't it? Yes or no? So there is no option, because life wants to find its ultimate nature. This longing to expand is not something spiritual, this is the nature of life. It is the nature of life, the fundamental life within you, which is being referred to as spiritual, a highly contaminated word today. But what we are referring to as spiritual is a deeper dimension of who you are, and that is longing to expand. It's not by your choice or my teaching which does this.
No, but I think what she is referring to, and I quite agree with her in that, sometimes there is a pressure to expand. The fact that is spiritual growth a pressure? If it's a pressure, then why should it be there?
Whether there is pressure or no pressure, everybody is trying to be little more than who they are. They're going at their own pace. Installments, you're trying to reach the infinite through small installments. It's a hopeless method. Now, if somebody sees you doing something which anyway not going to be fulfilled, is it not his business, if he knows better, to tell you, if this method you employ, you're never going to get there. If you… by small installments, if you expand this big, you're not going to die fulfilled, you will still die unfulfilled. There is something called as Bhairavi Yatana. Have you heard of this word? In the last… this is called a ghati, this is an Indian time unit. There is a nimisha, a kshana and a ghati. A ghati approximately compares to 2 days 24 minutes, the way we are using today's unit. In the last gati of your life, all the undissolved process within you, the whole process of life, everything runs fast forward in everybody's experience. When this begins to happen, one who is conscious will enjoy this phenomenally, and you will see when people are dying, suddenly they become peaceful and quiet because now they realize the whole thing is like a cinema. You were seeing it in proper motion, so you thought it's real. Now they're running the reel fast, and you know this whole thing is rubbish that you got deceived by. But some will get terrified because they have not done even the basic preparation about this. They've been taking minute steps, never even taking a a little bigger step, 2 small steps. Such people will go through a terrifying process because life is whizzing past them. So this is called as Bhairavi Yatana. How you do this last ghati in your life determines many things. There is really no choice about this. This is not a psychological thing, this is the nature of life. When I say nature of life, the air in the bubble is held with a certain tension of the bubble surface. It is always trying to break free. If you blow a bubble, you don't have to go and prick it. It holds for some time and then bursts by itself because the inside tension is such that it cannot remain there. So this is the same with this. The life within you is a limitless process. The physicality is always a limited boundary, so it slowly builds up tension. See, if nothing happens in your life, you must be happy, isn't it? But that's not the case. Nothing happens is the greatest torture, isn't it? You want something to happen, at least trouble, at least marriage. Something must happen. It doesn't matter what, something must happen. Nothing happening, unbearable, isn't it? Because the longing is to expand. Now the expansion, if you look at it, it doesn't matter how much expansion you find, it's not going to come to a conclusion. It is looking for infinite expansion. You're seeking infinite expansion through physical means. Physical cannot expand infinitely because physical is always limited. You are trying to drive your car to the moon and you will come back either frustrated or with wrong conclusions or dead.
Mic for him, please. Yeah.
Sadhguru, namaskar. I just wanted to know what is the importance of quick shraddha.
We almost touched that, but we left this. When a person dies, whichever way he dies, any of you… in India it is not a reality, but if you have seen death close up, someone close to you died and you're supposed to sit and watch, nobody leaves a dead body alone, you have to… someone has to be there. If you have sat there, if you keep the body for over 2 days, 3 days, you will see the hair will grow. Only if a person is shaving, you will notice it because the facial hair can be noticed. Nails will grow. You will see in other countries where they preserve bodies for a long time, the undertakers clip the nails, shave them and all this because a dead person is growing his hair and his nails. Why this is so is, in the manifestation of life, the physical life, there is… let me separate this, there is life and physical life for the sake of understanding. The physical life has manifested itself. The physical life energy, which generally is referred to as pran or prana, has 5 basic manifestations. There are 10, but that'll complicate. The 5 basic manifestations. These are called samana, prana, udhana, apana and vyana. When a person is declared, let's say if a doctor is observing and they declare that person at a particular moment that he is dead now, in the next 21 to 24 minutes, samana will start exiting. That means samana is in charge of maintaining temperature in the body. First thing that starts happening is body starts cooling down. The traditional way of checking whether somebody is dead or alive is, they'll feel the nose. If the nose has gone cold, that's how they concluded that he's dead. They wouldn't check the eyeballs and other things, they would just check the nose. If nose has become cold, that means he's dead. So samana exits at that time. Somewhere between 48 to 64 minutes, prana exits. After that, between 6 to 12 hours, udana exits. Till udana exits, there are tantric processes with which you could revive the body. But once udana exits, there is a micro chance, but that is an impractical chance, except that it is impossible to revive the body once udana has exited. The next thing is apana, somewhere between 8 to 18 hours, this exits. The vyana, which is the preservative nature of prana, will start exiting from beyond that. It can continue to exit up to 11 to 14 days if it's a normal death. That is, somebody died of old age, with the feebleness of life they exited. For such a person, between 11 to 14 days, certain processes will be happening in the body to show that there is some element of life, like nails growing, facial hair, these kind of things can be noticed. If someone has died accidentally, or in other words, the life was vibrant and he died, not necessarily totally crushed kind of body, still the body is intact, that body, the reverberations of this life will continue somewhere between 48 to 90 days. So, till that time, there are things you can do for that life. What is the thing that you can do for that life? See, what has happened with death is, your experience of death is that somebody is gone. But the experience of that person is, he's exited the body. And simply because he's exited the body, you have no business with him, you cannot recognize him, and if he comes back, you will be terrified. The people that you love, if they pop up, there'll be terror, not love. Because your relationship is either with their body or with their conscious mind and emotion. These things have been left behind. The body has been left behind, and the conscious intellect and the discerning mind has been left behind. Now, in terms of mind, it is just a bunch of information which has certain tendencies of its own. Natural tendencies which are finding expression in a certain way, there is no discerning mind. Once there is no discerning mind, if you put one drop of pleasantness into this mind which has no discerning capability, no intellect, now this pleasantness will multiply 1,000,000-fold. If you put a drop of unpleasantness, that unpleasantness will multiply 1,000,000-fold. It's like your child who doesn't have the necessary discernment, he goes out to play. He doesn't know when to come back. Till he's exhausted and he can't do any more, till then he wants to play because he doesn't have the necessary discernment, okay, it's time to go. Similarly, this is an extreme state where it is much more than a child, where completely the discerning mind is absent. So now whatever quality you put into it, it will multiply 1,000,000-fold. This is what is being referred to as hell and heaven. If you go into a pleasant state of existence, this is called as heaven. If you go to an unpleasant state of existence, this is called as hell. These are not geographical locations. These are experiential realities that a life which has become disembodied is going through. So what people are trying to do, how well it is done or how ridiculously it is done today is a different matter, but there is a whole science what to do at different steps. One of the first things you must notice is, traditionally, I don't know if you're still keeping it in Mumbai, maybe it's all gone, but if somebody dies, there will be people, the first thing they will do is they'll tie the big toes of the dead body together. Do you still do it or gone? Yes, it's very important. Because tying up the big toes will tighten up the Mooladhara in a certain way, so the body cannot be invaded or attempts to invade the body by that life once again, because that life has not lived with the awareness, knowing that this is not me. It is always believed this is me. Though it has come out, it tries to enter through any orifice that is there in the body, particularly through the Mooladhara, because that's where life generates. And as body starts cooling down, the only region where warmth will remain till the last point of warmth is always the Mooladhara. So it tries to get back. To avoid this, the first thing is tie the toes, so that attempt will not happen, because this exiting is happening stage by stage. The reason why traditionally always we said, if someone dies within an hour and a half or maximum of 4 hours, you must burn the body because this act is going on. Now, this is also true for the living. If someone very dear to you is dead, you know he's dead, but your mind starts playing tricks. Maybe he's going to sit up just now, maybe a miracle will happen, maybe God will come and do something fantastic right now. It has never happened to anybody, but still mind plays this because of the emotions that we have for that particular person. And that is the same thing is true with the life that is exited from the body. This also believes that still it can get back into the body. If you want to stop the drama, first thing is set fire to the body. 1.5 hours. But those days, because, villages and no doctors to tell you for sure he is dead, somebody put on the funeral pyre and set fire, the guy sits up because he's not yet. These things have happened in the past. So they stretched it to 4 hours so that these mistakes don't happen. But as quickly as possible, body should be taken away. If there are agriculture communities, they decided to bury because they want the forefathers and their body to go back to the soil from which they ate. You must understand, we were in a subsistence farming. We ate from that land. That land, a piece of that land is what we are holding as this body. So they wanted to put this soil back into the same soil, not somewhere else. Always you bury him in your land, never in somebody else's land because you ate from this land. Today you're buying everything from the store and eating, you don't know where it's coming from. So, burial is not a good thing to do now. At that time there's a certain process, and to see that it happens as quickly as possible, always salt and turmeric was put so that quickly it dissipates into the soil. But cremation is a good thing to do because it closes the chapter. You will see this when there's death in the family, people are crying and hollering and doing all kinds of things. The moment cremation happens, people will come back home, everything is quiet. Nobody is crying for some time because suddenly the truth has sank in, it's over, the game is up. This is not only for you, this is also for the disembodied being who's just exited, because he is also in that illusion that he can get back, and that stops, and that's a good thing. And there are many rituals to see that you influence, that you can somehow put a drop of sweetness into that non-discerning mind so that the sweetness will multiply manyfold and they will live comfortably or they will live in a certain self-induced heaven. That's the idea behind the rituals, if it is done properly. Today it's become a… They're asking you, the dead need footwear, an umbrella. Someone who's left the body here does not need footwear for sure, isn't it? The man who's doing the ritual needs the footwear. I don't know why they cannot say, I need the footwear. At least you would buy them the right size. There is a… I'm sure all of you have heard of this word called runanubandha. Have you heard this? Runanubandha means physical relationship. Wherever you touched anything, it can be because of parentage, it can be because of sexual relationships, it can be just because you held somebody's hand, or it is because you changed each other's clothes. In many ways, two bodies will generate what is called as runanubandha. That means there is a certain commonality which begins to happen. So when somebody dies, traditionally you're looking at in how many ways you can completely obliterate this and spread it around. The idea of putting the ashes in Ganga or in the ocean is simply so that it doesn't stay in one place and create runanubandha for you, it must be dispersed as widely as possible so that you don't develop runanubandha with one who is departed. You must break the relationship for you to continue your life. If this runanubandha is not properly broken as it is happening in modern societies, it will definitely affect your physiological structure, your psychological structure. Particularly, children up to 8 years of age are immune to these things. They will not be affected by this, nature has given them that protection. Adolescents will be most affected by these things. When we do not take care of the dead properly, adolescent children in that society will suffer immensely because these energies are always there and the first that they go towards, the easiest and the most vulnerable life is the adolescent life. And today the world is showing you this, how much upheaval people are going through just to face adolescence. I'm sure many of you who are of our generation, your adolescence was never a struggle. Today, it's such a big struggle. One reason, it's not the entire reason, one reason is we are not taking care of those who are departed properly. And these runanubandhas are loose all over the place. It is just like loose software everywhere, and it affects. And the one life that gets affected most is always the adolescent life.
But what do you do, how do you make the powder of your emotions and sprinkle it? Those emotions are going to be with you. You can't cut those ties. You can't grind your emotions. They go with you. And you ask people who lose their dear ones and ask them such a cut and dry, mechanical way of sprinkling your ashes and you should be cut off. I don't think it's possible.
See, emotion is another aspect. Emotion is a secondary aspect to your life. Because that person was physically present here, because of variety of relationships that you hold, and above all, a physical sameness in so many ways, either because of blood relationship or because of sexual relationships. A physical sameness that's happened is what we are referring to as runanubandha. You want to eliminate that because this can cause sickness, this can cause psychological derangement, another aspect. Emotion by itself is not damaging. You had a beautiful relationship with somebody, and today if that person is no more, the healthy way, if these things are eliminated, what will happen is, you will cherish the beauty of that relationship rather than suffering it. But if the runanubandha is there, it weakens your body and your psychological structure in such a way, instead of cherishing all the beautiful things that happen between two people, you are suffering, not only suffering, it will lead to certain derangement of life. To avoid that, we are only trying to destroy the physical memory. The emotional and psychological memory, you should not forget. Not only that you cannot forget, why should you forget? Someone who meant so much to you, why should you forget them? You must cherish that relationship forever, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pranam Guruji. I have a question about something that you've written in one of your books about the Kurma Nadi. It says that if you trace your breath, you could come to the point at which you are tied to your body. And after thinking about it, I was wondering that the breath is going into the lungs. So, can you just elaborate a bit on this?
The air is going into the lung. What we are calling is breath. There's no appropriate word in English, so we're calling it breath. In Sanskrit, you would call it pran. Pran is not going into the lungs. Prana is not going into the lungs. Only the air is going into the lungs. Air is a certain physical quantity that you're taking in for the physical survival of your physical self. But the pran is what we were talking in terms of life. The whole cosmos is life. Now this bubble, which is formed in the form of a body, this has to communicate with the larger life that it is. Because life is not just happening here, it's happening all over. It is just that right now we are able to experience it within the limitations of this little physicality that we have created. This is in transaction. If you observe that transaction, then that is observing the breath. For lack of English vocabulary, we're calling it breath. I know in English it means intake of oxygen and throwing out carbon dioxide. It's not being said in that context.
I definitely feel, I think it's what I've captured in few words. I think life is definitely, it's great to be born. The fact that if you look at scientifically, there are so many DNA permutations combinations which have not taken birth, which has not found life. So I feel life is to be celebrated and life is special. कितने विचार थे तो जन्मे नहीं, कितने स्वप्न थे जिन्हें नींद नहीं मिली, कितने पैर थे जिन्हें गति नहीं मिली, कितने आश्चर्य थे जिन्हें नजरें नहीं मिली, कितनी उंगलियां थीं जो थरथराहट को तरसती रहीं, कितने उत्तर थे जो सवालों का इंतजार करते रहे, कितनी खिड़कियां थीं जिन्हें नहीं मिली झांक, कितने आंसू थे जो गालों पर लुढ़के नहीं, कितनी सांसें, कितनी धड़कनें चुपचाप बैठी रहीं। तुम्हें एहसास भी है कि तुम्हारा जिंदा होना एक महाचमत्कार है, साबुत करिश्मा। कभी निहाल होते हो यह सोचकर कि तुम बैठे हो संस्कृति के इस विशाल स्टेडियम में, जहां नृत्य कर रही हैं हवाएं, जहां बरस रहा है सृजन, जहां गूंज रहा है सृष्टि का उत्सव। धन्यवाद की ऋतु है ये, अनुग्रह का मौसम। बढ़ो और गले लगाओ कस के।
What's the last word? What is the last word? I didn't understand.
We embrace life
Okay.
tight.
To say something on this.
Please, sir.
Why, in pursuit of something that's within you, why is it somebody goes to the jungle? Why is it somebody goes to the mountain? Why is it somebody goes in search of sages and saints and temples and just about anything that anybody tells them? Is simply because the bond of physical nature is woven strong. If it is not woven strong, you will not survive. It's a strong entity by itself, body. And when you're in its bond, it has its pleasures, it has its beauty, it has its many things, many aspects to it. It looks like it's a world by itself, it's an end by itself, which it is not. So when you want to transcend this, every little support you want to receive from everywhere becomes necessary. I should tell you a little joke about this. Once it happened, Shankaran Pillai had a gala fight with his wife. When you get into a fight that you cannot win, you only quit. And you can't quit and stay in front of that person. It's too humiliating. So he just walked out of his house as if it's the end of everything. Then not knowing where to go, he just wandered around just outside the town. Then he saw, it was evening, sun was about to set, a sadhu was settling down under the tree for the night. He thought, okay. And he went to him, fell at his feet and said, Sadhu Maharaj, बीवी बहुत परेशान दे रहा है, कुछ सुलभ उपाय है तो बोलो ना। The sadhu glared at him, बेवकूफ, सुलभ उपाय है तो मैं क्यों साधु बन के यहाँ बैठ रहा हूँ? Because transcending the mortal coil takes a certain amount of striving.
Yes.
That striving may take a person to many places to start with, but once it's well established, he need not go anywhere because once he understands it's all internal, the striving is entirely internal, then he knows there is no need to go anywhere. It's only in the initial phases people run all over the places. After some time, they know it's completely internalized. It's wonderful all of you being here. Above all, I would like to particularly acknowledge Prasoon for his fabulous poetry, which says so many things that you couldn't say in words normally. And it's been wonderful that without him, probably so many things I would never speak in one sitting. Asking the right questions and making that happen. Thank you.